the same as your name. No touch can do half as much to make me feel better.
So let's stay together.
Oh, I've got your memories to look back on. Though they help me when you're gone, I will, oh well. Nothing can take the place of you being there. So glad we got the real thing, baby. So glad we got the real thing. Oh, honey, ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Ain't nothing like the real thing.
A reporter for the Mutual Broadcasting System, Andy West, was in the hallway, the kitchen hallway in the Ambassador Hotel last night when Senator Kennedy was shot. He is perhaps the man who was closest to the senator when the shots were fired. Let's go back now to that hour last night. First, Senator Kennedy in victory, and then the voice of reporter West as our cameras show the panic that gripped the scene.
So I thank all of you who made this possible this evening, all of the effort that you made, and all of the people whose names I haven't mentioned, but who did all of the work at the precinct level, who got out the vote, who did all of the effort, brought forth all of the effort that's required. I was a campaign manager 8 years ago. I know what a difference that kind of an effort and that kind of commitment makes. So I thank all of you, those of you who are here. Mayor Yorty has just sent me a message that we've been here too long already. So my thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.
Senator, do you have any message? Senator, how are you going to counter Mr. Humphrey's background in you as far as the delegate votes go?
We could just go and start to struggle.
With it. They did turn it on. Oh, good. Thank you very much. You're the right letter. You get it all right?
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? Is that possible? It could. Is it possible, ladies and gentlemen? It is possible. He has. Not only Senator Kennedy. Oh, my God. Senator Kennedy has been shot. And another man, a Kennedy campaign manager, and possibly shot in the head. I am right here. Rafer Johnson has a hold of a man who apparently has fired the shot. That's it, Rafer. Get it. Get the gun, Rafer. Okay, now hold on to the guy. Hold on to him. Hold on to him, ladies and gentlemen. Hold him. Hold him. We don't want another Oswald. Hold him, Rafer. We don't want another Oswald. Hold him, Rafer. Keep people away from him. Keep people away from him. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
And people were kept away from him, and the police have him in custody.
Yeah. Okay, this is what I want to ask you about, because I've heard you talk about this recently, and we know. On May 26, 1968, your father made a statement that we must defend Israel against aggression from wherever source. Our obligations to Israel, unlike our obligation towards other countries, are clear and imperative. The U.S. should, without delay, sell Israel 50 Phantom jets. Okay. A day later, Kennedy's strong plea for the defense of Israel appeared in the Pasadena Independent. The article enraged a Palestinian named Sirhan Sirhan. He wrote in his diary, Robert F. Kennedy must be assassinated before June 5th, which was the first the first anniversary of the 67 Six-Day War in Israel. The Pasadena Independent was in his pocket when he committed the act. He was killed because of his support for Israel, says Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. That's not the case? That's not the truth?
Well, you know, he was, Sirhan was involved in the murder of my father, but he did not fire the shots that killed my father. Oh, and
But didn't he want to, but according to this, is that wrong that he read this story, was enraged as a Palestinian? I mean, it's the idea that the article was in his pocket when he committed the act, is that wrong?
that could be right, you know, and I don't speculate as to what happened. All I say is that Sirhan himself could not have killed my father. And that's what Thomas Noguchi, who is the coroner, you know, and by the way, my entire life, I believe that my uncle was killed by, not by, you know, by a conspiracy, by a group of people. And I had doubts about that from when I was little, because when I was, the day that we were waking my uncle in the East Room of the White House, and I was standing in the foyer of the White House with my Aunt Jackie and with my dad and my mother. And Lyndon Johnson came in and told us that Jack Ruby had killed Lee Harvey Oswald. For the people who are young people, Lee Harvey Oswald was the person who was charged with arrested for killing my uncle. And a day later, he was killed in the jailhouse by a guy, you know, who came in.
A nightclub owner.
What?
A nightclub owner.
A nightclub owner
named Jack
who
Ruby.
was, you know, deeply involved with the mob.
Not the worst nightclub owner I ever worked for, but
Yeah.
an asshole nonetheless.
Anyway, and I had said to my dad and my mother at that time, why did he do it? Did he love our family? Because even as a little kid, it didn't make any sense to me. Why would you go do that in public when when you're putting your own life at stake? And so that story never made any sense. And then, you know, when I was older, I researched it. Somebody gave me a book called The Unspeakable, and I read it, and the whole story that made sense. But I still believe my father had been killed by Sirhan. Sirhan confessed to the murder. He pled guilty. And, you know, his story is that he has no memory of it. And he's stuck with that story for 60 years. So, but Paul, there was a man standing, one of my father's best friends, was standing beside him when my father was shot. And his name is Paul Schrade. He was the deputy director of the United Auto Workers, and he's the guy who recruited Cesar Chavez to the labor movement, to the United Farm Workers, and then introduced my father to Cesar Chavez, which was one of the most important relationships that my father had. And the first shot that Sirhan fired hit Paul in the head. Paul survived, and he just died less than a year ago. And he spent the last 20 years of his life trying to get Sirhan out of jail, because he did not believe that Sirhan killed my father. And I just sort of dismissed what, over years, I'd hear that Al Lowenstein, who you may remember, was trying to get my father, Sirhan out, because Al Lowenstein was a congressman, a great friend of my father's, started the Dump Johnson movement. He was later assassinated himself. He became a congressman, was killed. But he fought for many years to get Sirhan out and get the case reopened, because he did not believe that my father was killed by Sirhan. But I never looked into any details. I just assumed there were 77 eyewitnesses. Sirhan killed Robert Kennedy.
Right.
And then Paul Schrade made me come over to his house one day and read the autopsy report. How did he make me? He told me, you have to do this. And because he was such a close friend of my father's, and because he himself had been shot, you know, I felt like I couldn't say no to him. And when I sat down and read the autopsy report, it became clear to me, as it would to anybody who read that report, that Sirhan could not have killed my father, which is what Thomas Noguchi, the coroner, the most important coroner probably in American history, concluded also, and said in his
autobiography. And here's what happened, the short story. Sirhan fired 2 shots at my father. He was 5 feet away. There was, as I said, there was absolute mayhem in the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel. My father just won the primary. He said from the stage, and now it's on to Chicago, which was where the convention was. Then he walks off the stage and he went into a route that was not expected. He was led into a route through the kitchen, which he was not supposed to go to. And waiting in the kitchen in an ambush was Sirhan Sirhan, standing in front of a steam table. And as my father approached the steam table, Sirhan fired at him 2 shots. One of those hit Paul Schrade. The other one went past my father's ear and hit a door jamb behind my father, a wooden door jamb from which it was later removed by the LAPD. Sirhan was then grabbed by 6 men in a dog pile, and he was backed onto the steam table. And his hand, Rayford Johnson, who was a great friend of mine, one of my father's close friends, he was the decathlon gold medal winner in 1960. He was one of the people who grabbed it, and he was the one who actually grabbed his hand. And he said that Sirhan, who's a tiny little man, I've been to meet him and visit him in prison. He said the tiniest little guy. But Rayford said he had superhuman strength, and he could not get that gun out of his hand. And Sirhan now was pointing the gun away from my father and fired 6 more shots. So there's 8 shots in the barrel. He fired 6 in the other direction, the opposite direction from where my father was. All of those shots hit people. So we know who they hit. We know what happened to all of those bullets. One person got shot twice, once through his once through his clothing. And my father was shot 4 times from behind. And
so it's the same scenario as Oswald.
Well, let me just finish.
A patsy and a real shooter.
Right. So he was a distractor. And the real shooter was behind my father. He was a man called Eugene Caesar, who was a security guard who worked for Lockheed. He was a CIA operative. He was a vocal racist who hated the Kennedys.
Get the gun, Raper. Okay, now hold on to the guy. Hold on to him. Hold on to him, ladies and gentlemen. Hold him. Hold him. We don't want another Oswald.